Welcome, everyone. Our theme for December is Finding Your North Star. And if you are familiar with that term, or if you're not, the North Star cosmologically is the thing that is sort of the sky's lighthouse. Everything is predicated upon that particular star in terms of parallel, latitude, longitude, leading, guiding, maps, travel. Everything is navigated towards that. The allegory or the metaphor of the North Star is our internal guidance system. And here's the most amazing thing. We will spend the majority of our life trying to find guidance. Trying to find that guidance externally, paying a lot of money for a lot of people to tell us about our guidance. When all along, where has the guidance been? And so that North Star is representational of something that is steadfast. When you sit with that word steadfast, it's an old English word that means firmly fixed, endureth. If you remember the song, His mercy, His love endureth forever, that also is the endurance of that guidance system for whatever religion, spiritual path that you walk. It's important for us to understand that that which we seek has always been within us. And it takes something, it requires something of us, and that is stillness, practice, and an intention to excavate or uncover or unlearn all of the things that have veiled that. And so on this Practitioner Sunday, I am very pleased to call up some that you probably haven't heard from before. They're a little nervous, and yet they're brilliant at the same time. And I want you to love them up. These are a part of several graduating classes from here. And I would like to welcome to the stage Joseph Clark, Christy Arantes, Dale Williams, Ozizwe Harwell, and Brandy. Come on up. You may be seated. Joseph, come on up. Today's talk is called Above All Else. And when we refer to that, we're referring to that internal guidance system and coming into a place where we now recognize above all else that that's the thing that we listen to first. You told me that an experience that you had, that internal voice said, this is not for you. What was that about?
Back in 1994, I was living here, and my mother got sick. And my mother was in Kansas City, Missouri, and I had been running around and had been working and decided that I needed to go home and see her. So in that moment, I went to look after my mother. She wasn't doing well. We put her in the hospital because right when I was getting ready to come back to Atlanta, she had a heart attack right in front of me, and my heart dropped. And so we put her in the hospital, and I went home, and I woke up the next day, and I couldn't breathe. It was hard for me to breathe. And so my brothers took me to the emergency room, and the next thing you know, I was in intensive care. And the doctors said that I had pneumocystis pneumonia, and they didn't know if I was going to make it. And in that moment, I was in the intensive care, eyes closed, and I could hear the doctor speaking to me saying, I don't know if he's going to make it. And in that moment, I heard a voice that said to me, this is not for you. Can you imagine your eyes being closed and just hearing another voice in your head? And that voice assured me, this is not for you. And I heard them talking about me, and they didn't realize that I was aware. And the next thing you know, I woke up and I told them, I said, you know what, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And I'm going to live my life, and I'm going to get up, and I'm going to leave this hospital in a week. And they were like, oh, don't say. I said, no. That voice told me, I could hear it in my heart, that this was what was for me. And so this changed my life. It made me understand that I needed to be able to reach out and live my life in a way that embraced who I was and embraced my life and my love. And so this continued to push me on my path as far as understanding who I was and what I needed in my life. And I stopped blaming other people for what was not happening in my life. And I took control of my life. And that was my experience.
And then something else happened, another diagnosis.
Yes, and in this process of my path, I found out that I had kidney disease. And after living my life and you know, just, I mean, traveling and working out and eating, and, you know, at the point that I got my diagnosis, I thought I was really cute because I was working out, and I was, you know, I was full of myself. And in that moment, you know, the doctor, I remember him telling me, you know, your kidneys are failing. And I didn't want to accept that. And in my prayers and in my meditation, that voice came again and said, you have to go through this. This is part of your path. And so, as much as I didn't want to, I had to accept that. And that voice is what has guided me. That voice directs me, and I know in my heart when I hear it that that's what I'm supposed to do. That I can't sit back and I can't argue with it. When I don't listen to that voice, things in my life don't go the way they're supposed to. That voice, I know it's always for my good.
And when you've had something like mortality staring at your face, how does your relationship with your own North Star expand?
It helps me to realize my direction in my life, where I need to go, who I need to be. And I know that in my heart that I'm one with God, that God is a part of me, and that I am a full expression of that.
And what does being a practitioner now mean to you?
It means that I'm able to serve, to let that voice guide me, to help other people understand my path, and maybe that in turn can help them in their path, and just to be able to be of service to people.
Thank you. Ozizwe.
See, I thought we were going in order.
Sneaky, sneaky. And so the North Star relationship for you, we had some insights when we were talking about that. You want to share with us what came up for you?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ozizwe Harwell, and I'm a newly licensed practitioner. Very glad to be. So I wanted to have like something really elevated and profound about my North Star, and mine is just really basic. When I'm doing the most, which is often, I tend to be a busybody. I tend to do a lot and keep going and fill space. I get slammed. My body shuts down. Sometimes you start to lose things. I lost a lot of stuff in the last month. But my North Star really has been my physical body and wellness. So you can even hear the rasp in my voice as I'm recovering a bit from that kind of experience. And essentially, what I have found is that my body is my compass. My body is the thing that tells me, you're doing too much, slow down, stop. And when I don't listen, it stops me itself. So that has been very much my North Star experience. And just recognizing and digging into Reverend David, you helped me to see a little bit, to start to think about the why. Why am I moving so much? Why am I busying myself? And what is it that I need to be moving towards?
And what was the realization about career choices that the rushing played into?
Ooh. So I think that I've drawn just a lot of reflection. I've been thinking about career. I've often been in career shifts alongside the journey of new motherhood and solo motherhood, and just nearing myself to places where there are people like me who are busy, 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 high achiever, high achiever, high achiever. And so what it has pressed me to do is to be a mirror, to be an oasis in a perhaps dry desert of self-care and of love, to really insist upon the boundary setting, which does not always work well in career when you tell people no and you have to stop. And so I find that as I find my perfect career location, I've absolutely I'm a public school administrator. I've been a college professor. I've been a classroom teacher in middle school and high school and elementary school, and things that are very, very high demand. So I found that I actually attract work that gives and gives and gives, and teachers, caregivers, educators, like mothers, tend to not say no. And they tend to not slow down. And so I'm very squarely in my 40th year learning that wherever I am, I have to practice that for the environment that I'm in.
And you said you learned something valuable after your grandfather died about rushing into and making decisions.
Yes. And so there's fear, right? So in my first position as a teacher, I was a first grade teacher. I was 21 and I was just out of college. And I found that I tend to make career decisions in haste, perhaps out of fear of not having money, fear of just the space and the gap of vulnerability. And so I haven't always found my perfect fit or my perfect desire or my perfect career place, because I'm often committing to something in the haste and the fear of the gap. In all of those spaces, in my North Star experience, I'm finding that I like to avoid gaps in space, because in those spaces are fear. In that time, I was grieving the loss of my grandfather. Didn't want to deal with that and have time and space. So what better way to keep busy than to pour in and love 26-year-olds, right? And so I was finding that I didn't want to be in the space of grief. I didn't want to be in the space of pain. I didn't want to be in the space of self-doubt or self-judgment. And what I'm learning is that the space often holds some other things, like healing. You know, if you slow down before you rush to the next thing, before you jump to the next task, you find healing. You find joy. You find solutions if you just get quiet. And essentially, I think from my North Star experience, what I think about in terms of Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad is, if you just still yourself long enough to be uncomfortable, to be in that void, to be in that vulnerability, you essentially find freedom. And so that is kind of where I've arrived now, as I try to initiate that North Star moment before my body shuts me down. Have I rested well? Have I eaten well? Have I had adequate water? Have I prayed daily? And so you see me in the middle of that. And so I'm on the slow down, and I'm on the heal, and I'm on the mend. But those are the lessons that I've been learning.
So as you said, your North Star is your body. And even in the external, when you want to fill that space or not go there because of the vulnerability required, your body says, no, we're going to do that.
It always does. My body tunes me in. And so I think in a proactive way, what I find myself moving towards is less of that being slammed and shut down and getting ill. More noticing if there's dis-ease or uneasiness in my body and making those doctor's appointments. Is my body as a compass actually allows me to care for it, to slow down, and it guides me towards the silence. It guides me towards the need to slow down. It guides me towards the void by saying, you have a little headache. What's your heart rate? You feel a little anxious. You're feeling energized because you're doing some of the right things. And so my body as a compass is essentially my guide towards that quiet space so that I can hear that voice that sometimes I've blocked out and been afraid to lean into.
And so as a practitioner, we often say that the people that come to us reflect the very thing that we need to work on ourselves. And so how would you pray with someone who is afraid of that space, someone who's afraid of the stillness and continually is at the mercy of busyness? What would you say to them?
So I would stop in that very moment. I think that for folks who are very, very busy like me, stopping is hard to do, but slowing down is that first step. So if we were treating together, I would stop in that very moment and let's just breathe.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Let's just breathe and begin there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandy. Brandy, tell everybody your real age.
I'm 14.
14.
I'm 14. I'm born on the 29th of February, so I get a birthday every 4 years.
You look good.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So your North Star has a lot to do with your personal authenticity and saying yes in a world that doesn't necessarily support that. What have you come to learn about your own internal guidance system?
What I really come to learn about my own internal guidance system is to take it one day at a time and to show up. And I think, no, I know. I have to do the work. From the day I walked into the center, I realized that I didn't understand what a practitioner used to say, this is what I know. I was like, well, what do you know? You don't know me. But taking the classes, doing the work, has allowed me to say yes. And the process has been ups and downs, good and bad. But at the end of the day, I did the work. And I can stand before you now and say, I'm grateful because I'm a stronger person and I know who I am. And I didn't want to do this.
So we engage in all kinds of walks of life with all kinds of people.
Yes.
How do you use your practitioner skills and where?
Well, I internalized my North Star in a different way to the point where I don't always necessarily follow the rules and regulations. Meaning, a lot of times when someone comes around me that I know that they need help, I've had a lot of situations where a friend of mine was hooked on crack, and they would come around me, and I would look at them, but in my mind, in my spirit mind, I would be treating for them. You are worthy. You are loved. I love you. God loves you. You're perfect. You're whole. I love you. You're great. And over the years, I watched this person change. This person went from on the street, smoking crack, prostituting themselves. And every time I would come around them, I would start treating for them. And I watched this person eventually stop doing drugs, start to be a vital part of the community, got a job, and is the most wonderful being to be around today. And I don't say I take the credit, God takes the credit for it. I'm just a vessel that I allow myself to say, everyone I come in contact with, before I even see you or speak to you, I'm treating for you, because that's what comes in and through me, because as an empath, I pick up on people's energy automatically anyway. So I automatically go into treatment, whether I say something to you or not. I'm treating for you because that's the vessel that I am, and I allow that vessel to be expressive to each and every one.
You said your father was is a scientist, and so that you were around that a lot, and then you gravitated towards a philosophy that is based in science. So how do you use that science in your day-to-day work? And let people know a little bit about where you were and the unorthodox way by which you were a practitioner.
Okay. My father helped develop the cure for syphilis. My father also invented a vaccine for viral pneumonia. My father worked for the Center for Disease Control. So I grew up in a scientific background. I work at a strip club called Magic City. I am the makeup artist slash house mom slash hairdresser slash guru counselor, and I work with a lot of young ladies who come in and they're broken. A lot of them know what they want, a lot of them don't. And so I use my practitioner energy to reaffirm to them that they are worthy, they are whole, they're loved. And I use it as an experiment. I might start with someone, and over the period, because I see them every night, and I connect with them, and I tell them how beautiful they are, and I tell them how worthy they are. And I say, regardless of what others might think of you and might say to you, I know that you are a beautiful being, and I'm here to support you in every way I can. And I use that not only with the girls, but I might walk up and touch an entertainer, and they're not even knowing that they're being treated upon, because that's just what I do. I look at Ernest Holmes as a scientist. He tried different things, and he kept trying different things, and he wrote down what worked and what didn't work. Well, I'm the same way. I try different things, and I write down what works and what doesn't work.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Christy. So you were talking about as far back as 7, you were hearing voices.
Yes. Good morning. My name is Christy Arantes, and I'm a newly licensed practitioner. My North Star was very present from the go of my life. I started to pay attention when I was 7. I heard a voice saying that I was born in a very small town in North Carolina. And I was standing on the bank, and I was like looking in the sky thinking, oh my gosh, someday I'm going to go and see what's out there. However, the environment that I grew up was not necessarily conducive to free thinking or to following your own path. There were certain expectations. I happened to have a mom that was a very hurt person, and in turn she was abusive, mentally, emotionally, physically, to me and my brother. We were always reminded how bad we were with the everyday spankings. And so that was a challenge. In addition, I went to a church that every Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night told me I was going to go to hell and burn forever if I didn't get saved. And as much as I tried to get saved, I tried. But the problem was that the inner voice, my North Star, did not resonate with that. And so here I was having people in authority telling me that I needed to get saved and I needed, but something else was like, no, that's not my path. So I had a lot of fear and anxiety around that, in addition to fear and anxiety around my mom. And then at 15, I became pregnant, and that was the worst thing you could do in terms of my mother. And so, yeah, I suffered a lot. I had a very abusive boyfriend, possessive boyfriend. I will say that by the age of 15, that my spirit was broken, and that my inner guidance, I know it was there, but it was just covered up with all this stuff.
And you said, so forgiveness has been an ongoing process with you.
Absolutely. Until the day that my mother died, she never let that go, the pregnancy. So what I did was I forgave myself first and foremost, because I feel like I use that as, I took the words of everyone else and I let them be true for me. And so I forgave myself, and I'm working on forgiving her. I forgave my boyfriend fully. I feel complete with that. But forgiveness work has played a huge role in reconnecting with my internal guidance system. Yes.
And as a practitioner now, do you feel that you are very much in that empathic state to be able to help people who are holding on to shame or self-loathing or any of that in order to help them see the other side?
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, you talk about people coming to you with the same issues, and I have that happening. What I say is, like, at this point, what happened is I somehow found my way here through a friend, and I happened to come to a class called The Power of Decision. I wouldn't come on Sunday because I didn't want to do church. But she invited me to a class, and I walked in, and it was Dr. David, and interestingly enough, The Power of Decision. I made a very clear decision that night that whatever he was teaching, I was going to learn it. And that was in September of 2014. So 4 years later, I am a practitioner, and I absolutely love what I do. And what I say to people is what I say to myself, and that is, I have a story, but I am not my story.
Thank you. Dale.
Hello, family. My name is Dale Williams, and I am one of the new practitioners of 2018, and I'm also one of the co-facilitators of the adult book study that we have on Sunday mornings.
Yes.
From 9 to 10.
Something happened to you when you were 16? Something
Yeah.
far out with a Maharaji.
Yes, Guru Maharaji. When I was in junior high school, I was studying Taekwondo, which was Muay Thai Sudo, which is a mixture of Wing Chun and Taekwondo. And
Gesundheit.
And my master took us to Toronto, Canada, to meet Guru Maharaji. And the reason I went with him was because he was my master, and he used to lay on a bed of nails and allow people to bust big bricks with sledgehammers on his chest and get up, and there would be no punctures and stuff on him. And I'm like, okay, you're doing that without any drugs. Interesting. So we end up when we went to Toronto, when we met Guru Maharaji, they had this little session where we go out and we would sit down and we would learn how to meditate. And while I was meditating, I had a guru come by, and he touched my chakra or my third eye. And when he did that, there was a bright light that was as bright as the sun. I mean, I couldn't see anything else but that light. And the funny thing about that light was that it was very warm. It was very assuring. I felt like I was protected. I felt like I wasn't alone, that I was on this journey with someone that was overseeing all my activity. And
What happened after that, though, when you were trying to recreate that or sustain that?
I was not taught how to call that back up. And when life showed up, I had a lot of traumatic experiences growing up as a child, and I didn't know how to call it back up, so I converted to drugs and isolating and hiding in my man cave because society seems to be very vicious and very unfair.
And tell us about your recovery. How many years?
26 years and 8 months. I've been in recovery.
And what has that 26 years taught you, and what has this practitioner journey taught you about that light?
That, once again, that I'm never alone. That there is no victim. You know, when I grew up, I thought with the things that happened that I was a victim and just things were just not fair. But I was told that fair is an amusement park. And that life, you know, life goes on. And recovery showed me that I have the power to fulfill my dreams, that I can speak my life into existence. What I tell myself is where I take myself.
And so when we were talking about this, you said that that experience with the Maharaji touching your third eye and that light, that you've now spent the rest of these remaining years on the planet understanding that you have the same capability, that we don't always have to go to someone to have access to that illumination, but it is here for us. How do you do that now?
By knowing that, by being a sponge to this teaching, the science of mind, knowing that there is nothing outside of God, that so anytime that my mind wants to bombard me with its feelings or illusions and all that stuff, I know that there's nothing outside of God, and God is love, God is good, and God is eternal. So, and I am a part of that. I am a manifestation of God's idea. So all that God is, I am. So I get to control my journey at the level of my consciousness.
And so, finish this sentence. Above all else, I, Dale,
am a loving, caring, compassionate being of the universe.
Thank you. Joseph, finish this sentence. Above all else, I, Joseph.
Above all else, I am a spirit of love, I am a spirit of unity, I am a spirit of power, and I am self-directed.
Thank you. Brandy, above all else, I, Brandy.
Above all else, I'm nothing. I'm nobody, but I'm everybody, everywhere, omnipresent, all around you, looking at you, loving you every step of the way.
Ozizwe, above all else, I, Ozizwe.
Above all else, I, Osizwe, honor and listen to my body, and I lean excitedly into the open space where I find my freedom.
And Christy, above all else, I, Christy.
Above all else, I, Christy, am taking back my power that I was born with. I am a bright light in this world, here to love and to nurture and to be that which I was as a little girl. And I take back that power, and I stand in that power, and I be of service to others.
Will all of you stand together, and if you would acknowledge them today. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm David Alt, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at SLCA.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.